Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome Brian and welcome Henry. We're here today to discuss two brand new courses, course modules coming up on Enterprise DNA, Enterprise DNA's Learning Center. I think this is a great opportunity to dive into this exciting expansion into Power Apps and Power Automate content, and also introduce Henry, who's our resident expert, a relatively new Enterprise DNA expert in these particular areas of Power Automate. So excited to get into this today. And why don't we just do a quick intro first? So why don't we start with you, Henry, and then Brian, you can come in after that. So Henry, let us know a little bit about yourself and how you got into Power Apps and Power Automate, and how you're going to introduce these sort of areas or expand on these particular areas with Enterprise DNA.
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everyone. My name's Henry. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I've been a data consultant for the past 4 years. And I really got into Power Apps and Power Automate from looking at the deployments that I've done from work. A lot of times what I find is that for Power Apps and Power Automate in particular, they solve a lot of business problems that people who don't necessarily know how to code have. Similar to how with Power BI, you can make very, very powerful dashboards that do a lot of the work that 10, 20 years ago you would have to have a developer do. Very similar to what Power Apps and Power Automate allows you to do. It allows you to create business-grade applications with no knowledge of any code. And Power Automate allows you to automate work streams that, again, 10, 20 years ago, you'd have to get a developer on your team to actually do and perform for you. So really fell in love with that right away as soon as I got into it for work. And now I'm happy to be part of the DNA Enterprise team to really look at that going forward and expand the current amazing collection we have for Power BI with Power Automate and Power Apps.
Awesome. Thanks, Henry. Brian, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, hi, I'm Brian Julius. I'm the Chief Content Manager for Enterprise DNA. I've been an expert with Enterprise for about the last 2 years, and just have been fortunate in the last 6 months to take on the content manager role, where I work very closely with Sam and with the expert team in developing a whole range of content and initiatives to help you all on your Power BI and Power Platform journey. So this is just part of that larger content strategy that we've been implementing this year, and thrilled to have Henry as a part of it.
Yeah, no, it's great to be on with both of you guys, because Brian's bringing a huge amount to the organization of our content expansion, and then also Henry is a key player in introducing more of the Power Platform to our community and to our audience. And I feel like this is a really exciting time for Enterprise DNA because of this new world of content and learning that we're integrating into the platform. But I also feel it's just the start, because I feel like the technologies themselves are really maturing. And I think we're coming in at a great time where Microsoft are bringing the Power Platform together into a more cohesive ecosystem of tools. And we can be an amazing facilitator around how to utilize these as effectively as possible within organizations. So this is a really important strategy for us in terms of content, and Henry's a big part of kickstarting this for us. So just making sure that everyone is aware, we are dropping two course modules, two comprehensive course modules around Power Apps and Power Automate from Henry this month, like in a couple of days' time. And so I think it would be good if we can maybe just dive into those a little bit more, Henry. So I know you've spent a bit of time putting these together and constructing these courses, and they're actually they're very comprehensive, actually, in terms of just understanding how these fit within your business processes, but then a lot of the unique features and ways that you can tie a lot of different things together to make these applications, these enterprise type applications with these tools. So do you want to, I'll just throw to you, Henry, and maybe you can just expand on the Power Apps workshop course and the Power Automate workshop course that we are bringing online in the next few days.
Yeah, definitely. So both workshops are great for all levels, and they really teach you and guide you along the way from beginner to expert level. So you don't have to have any prerequisite knowledge of the Power Platform at all to get started. And even if you do, it still provides very good value because we go towards the advanced and expert level topics as well. Particularly for Power Apps, we cover a lot of different things. We learn how to make enterprise-grade applications from scratch using the data that we have. We also learn about something called Microsoft's Dataverse, which is Microsoft's way to hold and store a lot of data from different data streams together. And then we also go into something called model-driven apps, which are more so of the enterprise development apps that you see when, for example, you log into your HR system at work or your payroll system at work. You are actually going to be in the driver's seat making those applications in the course, which is I think one of the best parts about it. Throughout there's about 8 to 10 hours of content there. Really good examples. We also give you some data as well in order to make the applications together. We make a travel agency app in the course, and it's a lot of fun along the way too.
Cool.
So that's for Power Apps. For the Power Automate workshop, again, very similar, beginner to advanced. If for Power Automate in particular, we learn how to automate work streams. So we go into an example where you receive an email, and based on the contents of that email, you want to, for example, update a Trello card or update your to-do list or send an email out based on that. So being able to automate that workflow really helps. We also create workflows where you can automate something on your desktop. So if you have to, for example, move files around once a week or move folders around, that you're able to do that as well. And then finally, we go into something called business process flows, where we're actually able to construct an entire business process into an automated workflow. One example of that we go through is payroll management. Vacation requests, actually, where instead of having a person handle all vacation requests that come to the company, you have a business process flow that automates that for you.
I mean, this is just incredible content, isn't it, Brian? Like this is going to be such huge value to just the fact that you can actually do this stuff now is huge. But the fact that those within our community can sort of learn this stuff and integrate it into what they're already doing with Power BI and the entire Power Platform is just going to be huge.
Yeah, I think what gets me most excited about these two courses is the fact that people have this in the power of their hands now. We don't need, you don't need to know complex code, development, environments, or anything like that. It's as simple as opening Microsoft Word to make a document. You use Power Apps to create applications, and you use Power Automate to create automated workflows. It's really bringing it to the power of the actual person instead of having had to be outsourced to developers.
I think one of the other things we're really excited about is having it all within the enterprise DNA scope. And I was just talking to Jared Moore, one of our other experts, and he's been trying to figure out some things on Power Automate, and just says there's not a lot of content out there. You've really got to kind of search for it. And so having it all kind of within the learning platform umbrella, where it's just a click away for everybody, I think is going to be a huge benefit. But Henry, I wanted to ask you, in terms of kind of strategy for utilizing the courses, is there a preferred order that you would recommend people go through it in, or is it really dependent on kind of people's individual needs and requirements?
Yeah, definitely. So both courses, for example, for the Power Apps course, the first few lectures talk about how there's different levels that we go through. So we go through the basic, then the beginner, then the intermediate. So the recommendation there is you first look at that lecture and determine where you are in the scale, and then you can move on to those sections if you want. For example, if you already know how to create a very basic Power App, but you want to create one with more conditional logic or different screens, then you would fast forward yourself to the intermediate section. So there is that. It's really ordered based on skill level. And it's the very similar process with Power Automate 2. What's a bit different about Power Automate is that, let's say if you know for sure you want to make a business process flow, then you can just go right to that lecture right in the course and follow that module instead of having to go through the initial stages there.
And what about the courses as a whole? Is there one you would recommend taking first, or is it just if you're more interested in Power Automate, take that one, or Power Apps, take that one first?
Yeah, it's definitely about the desire. Do you want to create apps first, or do you want to create automated work streams? What's really nice is that you can actually combine Power Apps and Power Automate together. So I'd still recommend you take both. But it's up to the person on what you want to do first. One other thing I'd like to point out as well is that you can also integrate Power BI as well into Power Apps, which is very exciting. You can create screens where you make a Power BI dashboard and put it into the Power Apps itself. So there's a lot of interplay between the different elements of the Power Platform.
I think this is the big thing that I think is happening now, is that the integration between all of the tools is becoming bigger and bigger, because the reverse is also true. You can embed Power Apps into Power BI. There's an actual visual, and I'm also chatting to Jarrett today as well. I think that Power BI users are going to start seeing how important Power Automate is. In a big way, because what you can do with Power Automate is you can actually you can basically automate anything. You can automate downloading data from a website and then updating it into Excel files or CSV files automatically, and then bringing that data into Power BI automatically. So it can really help with a lot of the back end stuff you do. Power Automate can also automate sort of screenshots, I believe, that can you can take a screenshot of a view inside of your Power BI report and then automatically send that in an email. I mean, there's just like unlimited ways that you can set things up. You can build enterprise grade applications that can capture data, automate what you do with that data into, say, like a raw data set, and then Power BI can be the visualization part of that. Like, it's just incredible, this ecosystem of what you can do. And with these two courses, this is just the beginning of inspiring everyone around what you can achieve with all of these tools in combination.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, so why don't we, if it's okay, Henry, what I'd like to do is sort of just jump in like really quickly. Let's have 5 minutes. Just share your screen and maybe just show us a little bit about, like, just give us a visual on Power Apps and Power Automate and just some of the key features that you go into. So it doesn't need to be too extensive. Just really quick and succinct on what are the sort of key things that you might want to focus on with Power Apps, or just like a way you want to frame your mind when you attack these two particular courses.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get into that right now. We'll definitely leave the extensiveness part for the actual course itself.
Yep.
But what I have over here, what I've opened up, is the first thing you see when you log into Power Apps. Mm-hmm. A lot of different things, and this might look confusing, but once you actually get into the app development mode, this is what that really looks like. Mm-hmm. Now, again, this might seem a lot to certain users, but it's very, very simple to actually use yourself. Very similar to when you're making any application, you have little elements you can bring in. And again, if you've used PowerPoint, Outlook, Word, it's Microsoft at the end of the day, so they have a very similar system. You have a bunch of different ribbons at the very top. You can add a button to your application. You can add text inputs, drop-downs, combo boxes. And again, you don't need to be a developer. It's literally just clicking it and then dragging it around the screen.
I've used this. I've just started to try get into Power Apps myself. Just having a pre-look learning from your course, like a pre-look at your course, Henry. And I agree. Like, it's all pretty intuitive. But one of the things that I think a lot of us and a lot of users get a little bit confused about is sort of how you sort of fit everything together in an app, like how you control the navigation and then how you use the formulas to actually, and the functions to actually make that happen. And I know that you go into that in quite a lot of depth, which is going to be huge.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a visual element to the actual application, which again is very intuitive. It's drag and drop. There's alignment that you can get into. You can change the color of this, the text of this, everything. And then you're right, Sam, there's the back end of it of how you actually control what happens when you click a button. That's really built based on formulas over here in the formula bar. Now, I don't want to get into much detail on this, but it's very similar to how you would do this in Excel, where if you have two things, you would add them together, you would put it in the formula bar. Very similar to over here. So for example, if you click this button and you want to change what it does when you actually select it, you would go over here and type in on select, and then it would give you can type in here, for example, go to the next page, or check username against this list of databases that you have, or anything like that. It's very formula Excel-based logic, which makes it very easy for everyone to really make their own application.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the key is just understanding what the formulas do and the parameters that you need to put into the formula. And I think that you explain that, super well. And so, that's a good way to for everyone who's about to dive into the course to sort of, just to frame your mind around, okay, yep. So the visualization aspect is very intuitive, but you really want to dig into Henry's advice on how to understand the functions and how they allow you to manipulate how the app actually works.
Yeah, I think two things I want to leave Power Apps with. The first is a lot of Power Apps are built on the back end from a database that can be in Excel, SharePoint, SQL. It's one of the best things about Power Apps is what's called connectors, which means you can connect to any single database that you really want, even your own Excel file on a computer. So that it becomes very powerful because you can integrate multiple different files from multiple different sources into your application. The other big benefit here is, we just have a static page over here. If you click play, for example, it's very easy again to develop. You can just click play. Now I'm in the application. And as you can see, you can create very, very complex elements and visual designs within Power Apps. It's not just a drag and drop button type system. You can create very cool visuals and very complex applications using the system. What that really does is it allows you to show to yourself that you can actually create these types of applications without needing to know how to code, and they can also be adopted and accepted in your organization because of their of their beauty and what they look like.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome, because that's exactly the same with Power BI, right? We at Enterprise DNA have always been huge in Power BI about high quality visualizations and best practices around visualization, and I'm sure that this is just the start of the inspiration around what can be achieved inside of Power Apps, but all of the best practices that we will that you've sort of kickstarted for us and we'll improve upon and curate as we go forward and build out more examples and more showcases for Power Apps.
Yeah, definitely. So are we okay to move to Power Automate?
Let's do it.
Yeah, Henry, I just had one quick question for you, which is, many of our members, as Sam said, we've been focused for so long on Power BI. Many of our members are, intermediate level or above in Power BI skill. Does that provide you any leg up or kind of advance on the learning curve in learning either of these two, or are the ideas not that transferable?
So it does in two ways. The first is that it is a Microsoft product, so a lot of the terms and intuitiveness that you see in Power BI translate over to Power Apps well. The second reason is because a lot of what you do in Power Apps on the back end, for example, getting a button to go to the next page, getting the button to do this in terms of the formula, is driven by a very similar coding language to what Power BI uses. Now, I say coding language in quotes because I don't want people to assume that you need to know how to code to use this. But if you do want to do the more complex operations, some of the code that you would need to do, that's what you would do in Power BI, can also translate to what you would do in Power Apps.
Cool. Great. I presume that's like M code, like Power Query code, more so than like DAX formulas, but maybe a bit of both, honestly.
Yeah, especially when you get into around the Dataverse things, there's a lot of the Power Query stuff there.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
So going on to Power Automate. Now, when you go into Power Automate specifically, this is what your screen looks like. Very similar to Power Apps. I like Microsoft. They like to keep things consistent between different things in the Power Platform. If we go into Create, for example, what we have access to are the 5 different types of flows. We go into each one into lots of detail into the course. But what's really powerful that Microsoft has done for you is create something called templates, where you can actually go, and these are the most popular flows that people have created using Power Automate. And you can hear, just looking at this page, you can kind of get a sense of what Power Automate can do. You can, for example, save Outlook email attachments directly to your OneDrive, so you don't need to do that process. You can, this is related to Power BI over here. So you can run a sentiment analysis on tweets and then push the results directly to a Power BI dashboard that you run, instead of having that done in the back end.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's amazing for, like, I see that one for Power, like alerts as well. So like you can, within Power BI, you can represent things like quite well, but you might not be looking at your Power BI report all the time. So you might not see those alerts or those outliers. And so this is how you can integrate notifications and emails off the back of what is actually going on in your raw data, which is super powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there are countless templates over here. We can also filter them over here. But what I do want to show you is the development environment for the actual flow itself and how intuitive and easy it is to use. So what I'm going to do over here is I've already created this flow here. Very simple for this purpose. What it does is I have a SharePoint list that I manage that people have access to. I want a notification every time someone changes that SharePoint list. So what I can do is create a flow. And this is what it looks like. It's only 2 steps, where when an item is created or modified in my SharePoint list, and I can actually specify it over here, it sends me a mobile notification for the actual title column of the row that's been edited, right? So again, very, very simple, but this is how we start off in the course. We go very simple, then we go more complex after that. But as you can see, it's very visual, right? In order to add a new element, for example, I would just click New Step. And let's say I would also want an email too. I would just type in over here, email, click this, and then it also has the action associated. So I want an email notification. I would click this, and then I'd have to connect to the actual mailing application. But after I do that, I'd be able to actually select what email I want this notification to go to, what I actually want in the message, and so on and so forth. And again, that just took, you recorded it less than a minute to actually do, right? Yeah. There can be many different types of flows, ones that are very complex. You can add conditional logic. So based on the actual item that's created, it does something else. You can also have loops in your flows. You can have time-based things in your flows. You can have flows of approvals. For example, if someone modifies something, it sends an approval message out to Sam. Sam then has to click approve before it gets emailed out. Lots of different iterations, but the one key thing is that it just takes a couple of clicks to get through all of this, which is I think one of the most powerful things here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more how good it is visually. It's like, even a few years ago, anything like this would have been highly code driven, right? And so now it's basically as easy as creating a PowerPoint. Now, one of the from my initial look through the course content, one of the best things that I think on the Power Automate side is a lot of it is just, it's like creativity. You need to sort of get expand your creative mind around what's possible, and you do that super well. And once you understand, okay, well, this is what's possible, then it's really about just getting your hands dirty and actually finding some process you want to automate and trying to replicate or trying to solve it inside of Power Automate. So that is, in all the content that you cover in the course, that is, I think one of the most powerful things is that you can get a really quick overview of what's possible in all different, from beginner all the way to advanced. And then, you can jump in and solve things for yourself pretty quickly post that, because you just know the potential. You've got that expansion in your mind around, what is possible.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I'd like to leave with here is similar to Power Apps. Power Automate has a lot of different connectors where you can create flows between many, many different applications. You can create a flow that's, for example, triggered by an email, but then interacts with Trello, and then Power BI, and then Teams, and then all of these other SQL connectors that we have available, all these other Power Automate connectors that we have available. So again, around that creativity, you have a lot to play with. You have a really massive, it's like having a playground with lots of toys. You have a lot of things you can combine together to create whatever you want to create.
Awesome. Okay, I think that was a fantastic overview, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of people excited about these particular courses. So, just as a bit of a summary, these are very comprehensive courses, like in terms of Power Apps and Power Automate, and you're really taking yourself up to an advanced level by working through these courses, or the beginnings of being an advanced user of these particular tools, and then when you combine it with the Power BI expertise that you can extract from reviewing all of our comprehensive content as well. I mean, you're going to become, and that's our sort of mission, right? Like, you're going to become one of the most valuable Power Platform users out there when you can really understand how to utilize all of these tools combined, the Power Platform ecosystem. So this is really huge. This is really huge for Enterprise DNA and everyone who's connected and partnered with us. So really appreciate your insights, Henry, and joining the team.
Yeah, definitely couldn't agree more, and definitely excited to continue this onward.
Brian, have you got anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
One question I had for you, Henry, is, and I've been talking with a number of other knowledgeable folks, I had kind of assumed that Power Apps was kind of the big dog in this race, and that Power Automate was kind of an auxiliary utility. And the more I talk to people, the more I'm beginning to realize a lot of people feel it's kind of almost the other way around, that Power Automate is really going to be the most influential of these tools. And so wondered if you, kind of looking down the road, kind of have some views on where Microsoft is going with these, and kind of where you see these shaking out in terms of kind of their influence among the users.
Yeah, I know, definitely. That's a great question. For Power Automate in particular, Microsoft first launched it to all of their Power Platform users. But because of the feedback that they got, that people were using this not for business processes, but also personal processes to automate their daily lives, they actually launched it overall. So in the future, what I foresee Microsoft is doing is making Power Automate not only a Power Platform product geared towards businesses and business users, but also consumers as well. So you'll get that really big outreach for people who use Power Automate in their daily lives, similar to how people use Outlook and Excel and Word. For Power Automate, that's more of a focused use case. You would use it if you want to have an application that helps with the process around a business. So if you have a process where instead of sending emails back and forth, for example, for vacation requests, you have an app that manages all of that. That's, I think, more of a specific use case. Still very important, but I wouldn't see necessarily consumers just using that to create apps for themselves. It's mainly to serve to facilitate a business process.
Thanks. That's interesting insight.
Yeah. And I also keep hearing that more and more as well, is that Power Automate is becoming this full service or full suite automation tool across like all aspects of your virtual or your digital life, like personally and professionally. So amazing to start to expand into this content, and I'm sure it's just the start. Okay, so why don't we wrap up? Just remind everyone. So this we were reviewing here the expansion into Power Apps and Power Automate with 2 new course modules coming out on Enterprise DNA at Enterprise DNA's Learning Center. They're being delivered by Henry here, and all I can recommend is check them out on Enterprise DNA's website. They will be up in the coming days once we release this video, but will be embedded into the platform going forward. So exciting times, and really appreciate your involvement, Henry. Great to have you on board, and looking forward to collaborating much more in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks. Okay, thanks Brian. Thanks everyone. Take care.
Thanks everyone.
Talk to you soon.